All right, so today we're going to finish up learning how to graph these trig functions with graphing cotangent, right? So the prior two videos, we've covered how to graph secant and cosecant, right? And in order to get those waves, you had to graph sine or cosine, depending on which one it was, and then you would cut at the vertical asymptotes and then flip, right? And you'd get your graph. Cotangent's a little different. It does not require you to graph the tangent wave and do something. It has its own little characteristics, so it's really pretty straightforward. The graphs will look very, very similar to tangent, but there's just a couple things that are a little different. Okay, so in graphing this, right, let's identify some of the key components of this, and then this will help us, right? So our amplitude is 3. Our period length, just like tangent, is pi, right? Now, when we graph tangent, right, we would put this b value, right, the number with the x, in a compound inequality with, positive and negative our period length, and then we'd solve for x. Well, we're going to do the same thing, except for now, instead of putting it positive and negative our period length, we'll put 0 is less than or equal to our b value with x, so 2x, which is less than or equal to our period length, which is pi. Okay, so it's similar, but it's still different, right? So now you solve this just like you would. Actually, it's not less than or equal to. It's just less than. Okay, so now we solve for x, so we divide both sides, everything by 2, right? So 0 divided by 2 is still 0, is less than x, which is less than pi over 2, right? So everything, our vertical asymptotes have gotten closer together. So we come to our graph, right? I'll do the vertical asymptotes in blue, right? So we have a vertical asymptote at 0, right? And then if I put pi over 2, right, our next vertical asymptote is there, right? And then if you were to continue, right, you would go another pi over 2 units, so at pi, right, and you put another set, and then you could graph another period length of cotangent, right? So just like tangent, once you have these, you find halfway in the middle, right? So that would be pi over 4, because half of 1/2 is 1/4, right? That's where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, and then you find half of half the half. So what's half of between 0 and 1/4 is 1/8. So this is pi over 8, and then between 1/4 and 1/2 is 3 pi over 8, right? Now, in tangent, right, you always went, if your amplitude was positive, the first point you always went down, and then the third point you always went up. Well, in cotangent, it's different. It's opposite, right? It's backwards. Okay, so at this first point, pi over 8, I'm now going to go up my amplitude here, and then at 3 pi over 8, I'm going to go down my amplitude. That's here, right? So if you connect, it looks something like that. Okay, and that's one period length of cotangent. So the black line, so there's your graph of 3 cotangent 2x. Okay, so covering this all again, right, here's another example, 1/2 cotangent of pi over 2x, right? So our amplitude is 1/2. Our period length is pi, right? So unlike where you put negative pi and pi, like in tangent, you put 0 is less than everything with the x, so that's pi over 2x, which is less than pi. Now I got to solve for this, so I got to divide both sides by pi over 2, right? Now when I take 0 divided by pi over 2 is still 0, right? That's easy. And this is x, which is less than. Now pi divided by pi over 2 is 2. Okay? So now I come to my graph, right? So I have 0 and 2. So let's say 2 is here. And there's 0. So I'm going to draw a vertical asymptote through 0 and 2. Right? Now halfway between 0 and 2, this is easy because it's just numbers. So between 0 and 2 is 1. Right? And then halfway between 1 and 2 is 1.5. And then halfway between 0 and 1 is a half. So 0.5, 0.5. Now, at 1, remember our graph crosses the x-axis. Between at 0.5 or 1/2, remember you go up your amplitude. So if this is 1 and here's -1 on the y-axis, my graph's going to go here. And at 1.5, my graph's going to go like right there, right in the middle of 1.5. And then you connect your 3 points and swoop up to the left and swoop down to the right. So there you go. So there's your graph of y equals 1/2 cotangent pi over 2x. Okay, hopefully this helps. If you have any questions or something, please leave a comment or email me. All right, thanks.